Well, hello there, the B3 burner, ready to do a video, an official video on my 1970 Ford LTD. I had a viewer on my YouTube channel complain that I did a drive sequence but didn't actually show off the car, and I realized that I wanted to get to this one of these days, so it's now November 12th, 2016, and we're going to do that today, so stand by. So as you might have guessed, this is the vehicle in question, 1970 Ford LTD. I got this car in April 26, 2016, picked it up in Fresno. This car is a California native, hence by the yellow on blue license plates that are period correct, starting with the capital letter A. They had just issued the A's in late 1969, early 1970. The car is a SoCal car, and I believe it's a one-family car. It might have gotten passed between cousins, brothers, father, son, etc., etc. Actually, I think it was originally the grandfather's car. It was originally in San Luis Obispo, Santa Maria, Pismo Beach area. Then the guy who I bought the car from moved out to Fresno, and that's where I picked it up 7 months ago. So this isn't too unlike my 1968 Ford Galaxy that I gave up in terms of engine size, but it is a 392 barrel engine car. A lot of the 1970 Ford LTDs had the 400 engines, but this one, they kept the 390 sized engine, and I rather like that anyway. Now, a lot of the LTDs in their stock stance were really four-door family cars. They were not really designed to be sporty. In fact, why don't we come up a little bit closer? A lot of them had these chrome accents that ran down the fender lines and along the door panels. My old car had that, and I was getting kind of tired of that look. And actually, when I saw this, I liked the fact that the seller put on the American mag wheels, that he bottomed out the rear end and lowered the stance. Those were all things that, hold on, I'm going to try to improve the lighting and the focus on this. There we go. Ooh, a bit too much. Okay, there we go. And had the car been stock, bare bones, and looking like something, you know, my parents or my grandparents might have driven, I might not have been interested in it. The guy painted it black himself. This car was originally a light blue color. Probably wouldn't have been interested in it had it maintained that color, but there's certain things I really like about it. I like the Hideaway headlights. I like the nose portion of this grille. That's kind of unique. I was originally looking at 1971 and 72 Ford LTDs because I liked that look, and then I fell upon this quite by accident, and I said, well, it's relatively close. I don't have to leave the state to go find it. That's kind of cool. The born-on date of this car was December 16th, 1969, and it was built in the Los Angeles plant. J code on the VIN number, very similar to my 1968 Ford Galaxy. Well, hello again. I wound up cutting up this video into multiple days because I realized there were other things I wanted to include. Speaking of VIN numbers, where we left off at the main video, I want to discuss how we get information about the car. I sent away for a Marti report on the computer, and a Marti report is basically one person, and his name is Kevin Marti, coincidentally. A Marti report allows you send them the VIN number, and then for whatever price you pay for either a basic report or a complete report, he'll send you all the information about your car, the factory details, what came standard on it, the codes, the color codes, whatever. specifically for your car based on the VIN number. So why don't we dig into this thing and have a look at it, and I'll show you exactly what's going on with it. So what exactly do you get for your $18? Well, I'll tell you. You get an emailed PDF download to your computer, and it's got the official license from the person who put it together. And basically what it is it's the deciphered codes from your VIN number that's in the windshield of the car. Back then they were only 11 digits long. Today they're 17 or 18. And then there's a separate section for deciphering the door code. The door code is faded, and the numerals needed to be replaced. And that's the whole reason I ordered this thing. And I'll show you that as well in a little bit. But the gist of it is each one of these codes equals something. So we know it's a 1970. It was built in Los Angeles, which I mentioned earlier. It's a two-door hardtop. Hardtop meaning there are no pillar posts on the side. No B pillars, as it were, and I'll mention what those are later. No side pillars. If you roll down both the front side and rear side windows, it's a open gap. Y is the 392 barrel V8 that I've made numerous mention to. The 139,877 is my serial production. I don't know if it literally means that it's the 139,877th unit built, but it's somewhere along those lines. December 69 is the month and year of manufacture. 65A, again, it's basically giving the same information up down here as it is up there. It's just, this is the direct deciphering of the VIN. This is a direct deciphering of the door code, so they keep it, they treat it as two separate sections, even though it's giving repeat overlap information. Door code also gives you the proper color, which was originally pastel blue paint. That's irrelevant now because the previous owner repainted the car black. But if it was a high sale car and it was important that all the numbers were, that the car was numbers correct, that would be an important thing. In this case, it's irrelevant, as I already mentioned. 9B, that's the original interior blue cloth vinyl brome bench seat. Again, he reupholstered it, so I don't know if he used the same exact material and it's the same color. 2.75 conventional rear axle, that's the rear axle ratio. U is the transmission code, C6 select shift automatic transmission. 71 is the district sales office, so it was built in LA and sent to an LA dealership. And the dealer number, that's the code for which dealer it is. It might even tell you, well, I'm sure it deciphers into the name of a dealership. Whether that dealership even still exists in the Los Angeles area, we don't know, but anyway, it was an existing dealership back in 1970. And then it goes on to say that my vehicle is equipped with the following features: blue full vinyl roof, which, oh, by the way, they took that off. I meant to mention that earlier and I forgot. When he repainted the car, he also took the vinyl roof off. They are a source of rust because they trap moisture, so that was actually another selling feature for me, is that the roof is now painted black instead of the vinyl. It comes with the evaporative emission system, which means it's not a 49 states car, it's a 50 states car, and the car is legal in the state of California. Since California's emissions requirements have always been more strict than federal, it's really important that the car meet those standards. Of course, obviously, it was built in California, it's going to meet those standards. A 49 states car from out of state can't be brought into California because it never met it in the first place. I'm sure there are ways to retrofit it and get around that, but again, that was irrelevant. Yet another reason I was hesitant about shopping for a car out of state. Okay, so it comes with the visibility light group. I have no idea what that means. Maybe somebody can explain what that means. The original tires, G78 by 15, belted white sidewall tires. Don't know what the G78X is, or X is by. Never mind, that's okay. G78, don't know what that means. 15 is obviously 15 inches. We go by metric sizes when measuring the width of a sidewall and the height of a sidewall now. Actually, technically that's percentage, but aspect ratio? No, profile. Body side molding, it probably had the silver molding on the sides. He went ahead and scrapped all that and took it off the previous owner when he repainted the car. Came with power steering, came with air conditioning, select air. Well, go figure, the air conditioning doesn't work now that I own it. Lovely. AM radio, it actually has an AM FM, so maybe the AM radio, the original AM radio got trashed and they went and replaced it. Still doesn't work, so it's irrelevant for me. Tinted glass complete, I don't know, it doesn't look too tinted to me, but they claim it's tinted. Maybe that was pretty tinted for 1970, I don't know. It's certainly not tinting like I see it today. Deluxe wheel covers, irrelevant. We used the mags, don't know what the wheel covers is, he didn't, what they were. I mean, I know what they look like, but he didn't supply them. And then finally it goes on to say your vehicle was actually produced on December 16th, 1969 on schedule. And then it has the person who put the report together's signature, Kevin Marti. And that's what a Marti report looks like. And then I'm going to go out back into the garage and I'm going to show you what I did with that. Okay, so we're back in the garage. And why did I order the Marti report? On the door, you can't see it real well because it's dark right now, but on the door is the door code. Now you tell me, can you read that? There used to be a nice metal plate back in 1968. Now it's a piece of paper that was turned on its side and it's illegible. After 46 years, you can't read any of the information anymore. So I got the Marti report so I could fill in the blanks. And what I did was I took a photograph of this sheet of paper, or this little strip of paper with my cell phone. Then I converted that, or I sent that picture over to my desktop computer, opened it up with Microsoft Paint, and then literally typed with Microsoft Paint's fonts into these boxes and filled in the information, so that when I was done, everything that was on that Marti report I just showed you, I typed all this in, I followed a template I saw online. This vehicle conforms to all applicable U.S. federal motor vehicle safety standards in effect on the date of the... I just basically copied that verbatim. It asked for the VIN number. I knew what it was, so I just copied it in. Everything I showed you on the Marti report on my computer, there it is. Remember I showed you body style? There it is, 65A, color, and I just typed it in. And I printed up this piece of paper, shrunk it off my computer, or I made it like 20% of normal size from the printer, and just cut it up and scotch taped it in the door. And it's better than this one because it's upright, whereas this one, Ford Motor Company in their infinite wisdom, turned it on its side, so you have to turn your head to read it, and it faded after 46 years. So it just kind of brings all that information back to life, and that's why I did it. Let's look at the wheels. These are, oh, you can't read it, American something. American torque thrusts, racing equipment. I mean, these are period correct. I like the tire size. These are not stock tire sizes. This is a 245 60/15 as opposed to the 225 75/15s I was running on the Galaxy. Let's take a look at the interior. Let's take a look at the dash. The seller put on new upholstery and put a padded dashboard on there, that padded dash pad. It was cracking, and he went and cleaned it up. The upholstery is a nice blue. I like the black with the blue interior. It's black blue is a nice combination. I like it a lot, and the interior and the rear looks good. I redid the headliner. redid the package tray. This is a bit of a sad state of affairs that I'm sorry about. He gave me the door handles, but didn't tell me that the hardware kit to attach them. Also, because there's no door handles, there was nothing to hold the carpeting in place. So I'm going to have to glue that myself, put that in. Our summers get hot here. I was just waiting for a chance for things to cool down. He had no door handles. I had to go on eBay and buy those myself. Let's turn to the driver's side so that we can look at it. Similar situation, missing door handles. I have them, but they're not as easy to attach as you think. And I'm going to have, and I got the door handle so at least I can open and close the car. The convex shaped interior or driver's console is sort of a odd curiosity on this car. They did this in 1969 and 1970 and then they stopped. You know, the idea was that everything was driver-centric. Even the, here, let me get around the steering wheel. Even the radio was on the left so that the passengers supposedly couldn't touch it. This is kind of weird. Because of this design, the glove box came out of this panel piece at a 45-degree angle. The glove box is this tiny little, I don't know if I can zoom in or not, this tiny little panel piece in the fake wood that way smaller than on my old Galaxy. One thing I really like about this, front disc brakes. I missed that with my other car, and I'm glad I have it with this one. And finally, automatic transmission. I was getting tired and having it up to here with that 3-speed on the 3 on the tree. I mean, it was a novelty, but it ultimately got tiresome. And I'm getting old and my knees hurt, and shifting with that big heavy clutch was getting tough. So let the 23-year-old that I sold that car to deal with it. This is what it looks like from the rear. Chrome-tipped dual exhausts, just like I had with the other car, but the other one went straight out. This one, the tips curve down. Different look. Side markers instead of side reflectors. Starting in 1969 was when they required lit side reflectors in the rear. You know, I gotta say, the taillights are nothing all that imaginative. I really rather like the taillights on a 69 and a 68 better. Compared to this 68, the trunk started getting a little bit shorter and squattier, and compared to what the front looks like with its big, long, sleek hood, they started shortening the trunk a little bit. That I don't like as much, but the car is still over 18 feet long and longer than my Galaxy was, my 68 Galaxy. So, you know, I'm not 100% sure I'm cool with the, as cool with the back end as I am with the front end, but still a good classic look. 1970 was the first year they started putting the reverse lights in the bumper up through 69. They had them in the center of the tail lamps. Did away with that eventually, and they would keep them in the bumper in 1971 and 72, and then go back to putting the reverse lights in the center of the tail lights by 1973. I want to discuss real briefly automotive design speak. This front pillar, when you look at the front pillar, this here is known as an A pillar. Oh good, I can point and see. That's an A pillar. That's the front pillar of the car. The center pillar of the car, if this was a sedan, would be this. Where the front window meets the rear window, this would be the B pillar. This entire section from the roof where it comes down to the quarter panel and meets with the trunk and is basically the divider between the rear side window and the rear window is called the C pillar. also known as the dog leg because it kind of resembles a dog's rear leg, and also referred to in slang terms as the sail because it literally looks like a sail and is the main structural piece that connects the roof of the car to the rear quarter panel. If this were a four-door, the C-pillar would be more straight up and down, move further back, the trunk would be shorter, and the rear doors, the front door would not be as long and pushed up more that way, and the rear door would occupy more space from here to about here. Let's see. Sometimes these cars, as they wear out, show particular wear and tear in certain areas, and one of them here is the windshield wipers. The tensioners on all these early 70s Fords had a tendency to give way, and when I take this car on the freeway much over 65 miles an hour, the windshield wipers flop up, and sometimes the air will grab them and pick them up in the air and shake them while I'm on the freeway. Kind of annoying. Thinking of maybe taking the windshield wipers off altogether if I don't plan on driving this car in the rain. I couldn't hold the camera and open the hood with one hand because I needed two of them, but here it is. That was the original color of the car. This sort of light, crappy, bluish white. I honestly don't think I'd have bought this car if I saw it looking like that. I would have passed it on. This is not rust. Well, actually on second thought some of it is, but some of it is the glue or the adhesive from the old carpeting that they put on the bases of roof doors. 390 two-barrel engine, very familiar with these, but this one does not benefit from electronic ignition, and I'm having some issues with the carburetor. This thing runs kind of weird when it's cold. I'll hit a soft spot in the pedal where it just backfires and stalls, and then when it's too hot, when I turn it off, I have a hard time restarting it. So that's something I need to investigate and look further into. When I first got the car, there was a lot of fluid leaks, transmission leak, oil leak, things of that sort. Got that fixed so it no longer leaks on the ground. Regarding the Hideaway headlights, they are vacuum powered. And interesting thing, I'll just zoom in here, this is a stopcock to release vacuum pressure. And if you want to release the headlights while the engine's off and there's no vacuum, you just turn the stopcock so that it's parallel to the lines. Whoop. And now, ta-da, the headlight's open. Now if I close the stopcock again, I've released all the vacuum and there's not enough vacuum left to close them again. I'll have to restart the engine, but that is what the car looks like with the headlights open. They default to that position on purpose so that if I lose vacuum, day or night, the lights will shine without the doors being closed. With the headlights open, it looks like a 1970 Galaxy, almost. The only difference is the Galaxy doesn't have the nose in the center, this over here, and the whole front end's a little flatter. Actually, with the headlights open, it looks more like a 71 or a 72 LTD. With them closed, it looks uniquely like a 69 and a 70. The only major difference between the front end of a 69 and the front end of a 70 here, why don't we come in a little bit, have a closer look, is that the 1969 vertically has a wider, taller grille with a painted vertical or a painted horizontal divider dividing the grille in half. In 1970, they made the grille stance narrower and did away with that. Notice that, like they put the backup lights in the bumper in the rear, they put the turn signal and parking lamps in the bumper in the front. They did that in 1969 as well, and continued to do it in 1971 and 72. prior to 1969 and 1968, the turn signal lamps were in the front corner of the fender, and then in 1973, 74 and on, they put it back in that location. Why don't we start it? No car video is complete without starting the car. Well, I had to go find the keys, so I turned off the video. I'll edit that part out later. There we go. Obnoxious buzzer. They weren't pretty back then. Start it up. Now it's telling me my battery's low on my phone. This thing's cold. There we go. Sounds pretty nice down here. Yeah. Smells nice too. Nothing quite like the smell of old car fuel. Down in here. Silky exhaust. Very nice. Very smooth. It's actually a very smooth running car if I could just figure out what the problem is and the hesitation and the skipping. And why it wants to stall so easily. I think it's a fuel delivery problem. I think it might be the carburetor. I think it might possibly be the fuel filter. It could be a lot of things. I just need to get to the bottom of it. And I just haven't spent enough time with it, but I wanted to at least do an initial video on the car. Oh, one other interesting story. Best laid plans of mice and men. And this just goes to show what happens when you shop and buy things and trust people on Facebook, or not Facebook, Craigslist. Guy had the car repainted, so he took the badges off to have it repainted. Here, put this down. He promised me before I drove down to Fresno that he had all the badges for the car. Don't worry, I got them all. I get down there, there's no badges on the car. He said, I got them in the garage. I don't know where they are. I'm going to have to go look for them. In the meantime, when you and your wife come back down here to pick up your other car, because I drove this Honda down to Fresno to go get it. She said, he said, I'll go through my garage and I'll hand them to you and we can talk about what I got. So that Friday evening, we go to drive down to Fresno and we're 30 minutes out. He told me to call him so he'd know when I'm on my way. He said, you know what, my wife and I are going out to dinner. We're not going to be there, but I'll leave the badges in a Ziploc bag on the front doorstep and you can take them. You know, I should have known something was up at that point. Didn't bother. I just wanted to quick get them and get out of there and get home before it got dark or too dark. And when I got home, none of the badges really fit the car. In fact, none of them fit the car. I went on the internet and most of them were for 1973 to 78 LTDs. I had to go on eBay to get the wreath, and I don't know if you can see it real well, but each one of these little holes is for the letters LTD. They're missing. The badges that are supposed to be in the C-pillar are missing. You can, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see the holes that were covered up by the paint job where they're supposed to go in. And I don't want to mess with the paint job and the metal until I have an expert tell me how to install those, but I got to get them first. The other important thing that's missing is the trunk lock. It's supposed to be an LTD trunk lock with the emblem LTD, and it pivots upward. Meanwhile, when I wash the car, I don't want the water getting in that hole and soaking and rusting the inside of the trunk panel, so I got to be really careful with that. And the same goes for this side. So the funny thing is that other than the Ford emblem in the rear next to the right tail light, and this, the door's locked, that LTD emblem on the passenger side panel above the glove box and the words Brome on the doors, you wouldn't know this is a Ford LTD. So when I went to car shows, you would be surprised how many people asked me, hey, is this a Chevy? Is it a Buick Riviera? Is it a Pontiac? They had no idea what it was. And I have to tell them, no, it's a Ford LTD without its badges, and I still have to go hunting on eBay to get them all. Actually, one other thing I'd like to talk about before we end this for the evening is the old sealed beam headlights. I love these things, and I'll tell you why. Because this is the good old days before they started putting in permanent lenses where you put the bulbs behind the lenses. On 90s, 2000s, and 2010 cars, the sun smokes and fades and yellows the lenses, and you just put a bulb behind the lenses. You get new bulbs, but you're dealing with the same smoky lens. And if you want to replace the lens and make it better, that costs a lot of money. You got to replace it at the dealer. In these cars, you burn out a light. These were made out of solid glass. Glass doesn't fade, and even if the glass does look bad, you replace the lamp, you get a whole new lamp assembly because it's solid, it's complete, it's a sealed beam. The disadvantage to this is you don't have very many selections to choose from, whereas with the light bulb in behind the lens scenario that we have in today's cars, you can choose from a much greater array of halogen, those bright whitish blue lamps that everybody seems to like today, and so there's pros and cons to both. But personally, one of the things I love about the old GM and the large GM and Ford vehicles of the late 60s, early 70s was the quad headlight look. No cars were allowed to have quad headlights prior to 1959. Whether you know it or not, the federal government mandated how many headlights a car was allowed to have and how big they were allowed to be, in other words, inches in diameter. And up through 1958, cars were only allowed to have two headlights, one on each side. Starting in 1959, federal government said you can have two headlights on each side, and you have a choice of quad or dual, and you had your choice of side-by-side horizontal or stacked vertical. And so auto designers, in an effort to make cars interesting and stand out, started messing around with those designs and altering them just to make the front ends of cars a little bit more appealing and artistic and switch things around. Today, and if I may go to our 2000 Honda Civic, and we don't really have that option today. Let me turn on this light. All the cars today have these sealed beams. The high, that's a high beam day runner, and that's a low-high combination, I think. They seem to have lost their personality. That's just sort of the modern-day Japanese import and even American car look of today. It just, I don't know, made out of plastic, and it just personally doesn't do much for me. But, that's the way it is. I rather like that when you knock your fingers against these headlamps, that is glass. So that's pretty much it about the car and the ins and outs of it for the time being. And as more develops and I do more with it and I go more places with it, I'll let you know about the further progress that I make. Thank you for watching.